Hi, I'm Jordan Sadler, and I haven't become a union Steadicam operator yet.
We're in intro now. This is intro. I'm Hayden Garrett.
I'm Yannick.
And this is Indie Not Films.
This is it. Yeah. Did we get dog tone last time?
Yeah, let's get Dr. Jude. Great.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, great.
Okay, the only time we want him to bark.
We're a podcast.
Yeah, this is Haven't Made It Yet. And today
We're back.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah.
Today.
From our hiatus, our 1 week hiatus. And we're here with Jordan, who's going to bring a little bit of camera knowledge to your ears.
Yes. So Jordan, we do a little icebreaker question, just to, ease the tension, ease the pain a little bit.
Jordan bringing a lot of tension today.
I'm so tense after all that traffic.
Yeah.
So we have. Do you know what the most expensive piece of anything that you've broken? It doesn't have to.
We're all going to answer this question.
We'll all answer this, but something expensive. It doesn't have to be on a set. It could be, but just something that expensive that you remember.
Most
breaking.
expensive thing you've ever broken?
I don't think that I broke it, but I dented it.
Okay.
I was a kid and I was playing with a PVC pipe and it slipped out of my hand and thwacked the roof of our neighbor's brand new Ford Escape.
Ooh.
And put a pretty big dent in it. Of course, I was like 12, so it was free for me, but I don't know what my parents had to pay.
So you told your parents?
Well, my neighbor told my parents.
Oh, okay. So
and you were scared to tell your parents?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not. If you get away with it, then it doesn't matter who did it.
It's pretty hard to hide like an 8-inch dent in a brand new car. So I think that would be it.
Did you get in trouble?
Yeah.
Yeah. Grounded?
I won't go into the details of what the parental-child relationship of our family was like, but
fair enough.
Yeah.
Mine is kind of a similar one because it was a ring. It was an opal ring that I was playing with. That was my stepdad's, and for some reason I thought it would be a great idea to put it around a little metal rod, and then spin it around really quickly and like hit it against things. It doesn't even sound fun, but I smashed all the little opal squares out of the ring, and I don't know how much it cost, but my parents were actually not that mad about it, just disappointed. No, they were mad about it, but not to the degree that I thought it was. It was mainly in my head. I was like freaking out when I broke it, so I didn't get grounded, but I think that's the most expensive thing.
Wow. Sadly, I'm the one that freaking thought of this question, and then the second I said it, I was like, "Shit, I don't know."
He said his heart.
I mean, that's priceless.
I broke my heart.
You broke your own heart?
But the first thing that comes to mind is that I can think of, which this experience ended up getting me into college because it was something that I wrote about for the essay. The entry essay that you had to write for colleges. I played the flute in middle school, and I was going to play it for my aunt's wedding. It was at the beach. It was supposed to be just very informal, and my whole experience was I come in right after the wedding and everyone's supposed to leave. And as I play a little flute solo or whatever, because that was my cue. But going into the beach, I dropped the flute because I was just so nervous seeing all these people. That I was told that the people would be leaving, and they won't be like standing and just watching me perform.
Oh, scary.
And so I was getting tense. My hands were kind of shaking, and I dropped the flute. And I guess the flute and sand doesn't really work together.
Yeah.
So it stopped producing any sound, and I had to play a non a non-playable flute in front of an audience. And the worst part about that is, so it didn't work. And later in the reception, I had multiple people come up to me saying, "You did such a great job. Good job for being out there and playing your instrument." And I didn't play a single note.
Did you hum? Like, did you make a little noise as you were playing to pretend?
What happened was I did like, and then I looked around, and then I ran away, and my dad had to chase me down. And
how old were you?
This is middle school.
Okay, yeah. I used to play saxophone in middle school. So
cool.
I know woodwind type
Okay.
Yeah,
troubles.
not with
kid.
sand.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't use sand with it. But yeah.
The recorder was indestructible. So
Yeah.
It's just a hunk of plastic.
wood.
Oh, you had a wood one.
Fancy.
Wonderful.
Making it for me is becoming a rostered operator, becoming an A-camera operator on narrative features and television.
Yeah. What exactly is the A-cam operator, and what's the significance of being in this position? What's the feeling?
Yeah.
What's the
Why do you want that?
yeah.
Well, that just means that you are the point person for facilitating the making of the film. You get the shots done. You help coordinate all of the moving parts to help, make the film what it needs to be in the director's vision.
Totally.
Yeah. It's a leadership position within
Essentially,
the
yes.
operating bubble. Yeah.
Yes. Mostly it's credited, but it's not, I would think, credited enough in that there's so much more to just panning and tilting. It's talking with actors and talent, talking with your crew, your camera crew, the electrics, threading the needle between director and DP and what they want for the specific shot or the scene. Crafting the feel and look of a film or a piece of work in the vision that serves the director.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize that the DP isn't the one holding the camera usually. The DP is the one looking at the monitors, doing the lighting and radioing all the operators. But the real feel of moving with an actor back and forth, is the operator, often a little bit directed by the DP, but that can only go so far. It's really the operator that is making that feel that you're talking about.
Yeah. There are some exceptions with DPs that prefer to operate, but
Totally.
most tend to sit with the DIT, digital imaging technician, and look at lighting levels. So it's really up to the operator to nail down the logistics of the shot and the scene.
I've talked to some DPs who've actually stepped down from DP because they felt disconnected from the actual action, and they thought the most fun was to be with the action, holding the camera. So
Yes. Yeah.
that sounds like kind of what you want to do.
Yes. I'm a camera and Steadicam operator, and I'm also a digital utility in Local 600.
And I saw on your website that you do own a bunch of equipment. You don't own the camera, but the Steady rig, is that correct?
Yeah. Most Steadicam operators here own their own rigs.
Right.
It's a very kind of personal piece of equipment that you want to tailor to your specific way you work, because if you want to achieve, decent shots, you have to know your own tools. So
Right, and it literally has to be adjusted to your body height and
yeah.
Right.
So the vest is the most personal part that you fit to your body, and everyone has their own personal preference and their own body shapes, so they pick whatever's most comfortable for them.
Yeah. do you have like is there like an industry standard rig, or is it so personalized that everybody kind of has whatever is working for them?
Back in the day, it was more industry standards. You had Cinema Products, who then got bought out by Tiffin, and they make the Steadicam brand. So Steadicam is actually a brand invented by Garrett Brown in 1974 or something. And the essential design is just a gimbal and a stick with some weights on it, and that's essentially it. Another company that started in like the late 80s, early 90s is called GPI Pro, and they and Tiffin have also become the like standardized tools for Steadicam. But it's 2023, and anyone can make stuff out of carbon fiber. Arri now has their Artemis line and their EFP and Trinity, and there's Bets and there's Smart System. There's so many people who can just make a Steadicam because it's essentially just a stick and a gimbal and some weight. So,
but you wouldn't be owning your own camera because the production is always going to have their own preference for that, right?
So production will hire the DP. The DP will have their camera preference, and then you just bolt a plate onto the camera and put it on the rig, and you can fly.
Yeah. But you do own a personal camera, right? Like a smaller kind of a thing?
I own a C100 Mark II.
Oh,
okay.
And
beautiful camera.
It's a great camera, but I just use it as a practice camera.
Yeah.
So I have like these 11-pound weight plates that I bolt to it to make it heavier. To be more suited to the kind of weights that the rig that I have likes to work.
I see.
Right.
What's the average weight you're usually dealing with on your rig?
It depends. I mean, the arm is what carries the weight that's attached to the vest. The arm can carry anywhere from 13 to 72 pounds. And like most camera packages, especially if they're just digital and on primes, it's like 20 pounds, but that's on top of the weight of the sled, the weight of the arm, the weight of the vest.
Yeah.
So
A prime is a non-zooming lens.
Yeah.
Just for people that are listening.
Yeah, prime lens, single focal length.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have one question unrelated to you, and then one question related to you. My first thing, I heard that Steadicams came from The Shining, the movie. Is that true?
So the inventor of the Steadicam, the first movie he used it on was called Bound for Glory, but he made the Steadicam, and then he wanted to show everybody what he made, because he is more of an inventor than just an operator. His name's Garrett Brown. He invented the Steadicam. He made a demo tape, and somehow Stanley Kubrick saw that demo tape, because no one had ever seen a camera move so smoothly through space without the use of a dolly, which was like 600 pounds back in the day. So this new form of camera movement really caught the eye of all these big directors and DPs. And so eventually Stanley Kubrick saw his demo, and also probably saw what he did on Bound for Glory, and brought him on to The Shining. And so one of the main Steadicam debut shots is in The Shining, when he's chasing the kid on the tricycle, or when he's running through the maze, or if he's chasing Jack Nicholson with the bat and everything. So that's all Steadicam, one of the first big movies to have it.
Yeah. So you would say that it wasn't really the success of The Shining wasn't really the success of the Steadicam. It would have been in any film. It was going to be the technology of that time.
Yeah, I would say. But I mean, Kubrick was huge back in the day, so to get it on a Kubrick movie was
accelerated it.
Yeah,
probably.
like I think, because I don't really think that many people saw Bound for Glory. Like, do you guys even know what that movie?
I don't know.
So, you know, once he got it on a Kubrick film, then he got it on Rocky, then he got it on Indiana Jones, you know, all these big movies, because they saw how influential this camera movement tool could be.
Yeah. And then second question being, what kind of drove you into that world in the first place of being, I guess, first kind of being wanting to do camera work, and then second, why specifically Steadicam?
Well, I had always loved movies. My dad would show me a lot of movies. When I was in high school, all my friends would do like water sports stuff. I'm from Hawaii, so they'd all be like surfing or
What part?
Kailua
Oh, cool.
on Oahu. And back then, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was out, and
Nice.
people were recording their footage, you know, doing trick shots, etc. And I wanted to become an editor and edit that footage, you know, make montages.
I know so many people. This is the beginning of their film
it's,
careers.
It's
kind of
crazy,
funny.
but it's so. I started getting into editing, you know, After Effects and all that, watching tutorials on YouTube, and simultaneously, my friends were all doing these water sport things, paddling, surfing, you know, kiteboarding and all that. And they would have GoPros, because GoPros also just kind of came out back then and were accessible to the public. So then I would take what I knew from editing Call of Duty videos and their footage, and I would make it into a montage using After Effects and whatnot. And then it was, you know, I graduated high school. It's time to go to college. I did art a lot in high school, and then was going to be an architect. So I did like 2 years in the architecture school, and I was like, this just isn't for me. You know, I don't care as much as the rest of these kids about their models and whatnot.
And it's a 5-year program.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
super intensive.
So I was like, oh, I want to, you know, go down the film editing path, see what's there, because I like working with, you know, stuff. I like shooting stuff, but I don't want to just sit on a computer all day. So I want to actually like be out and like filming it. And I had been taking some of the production classes in the cinema department in college, and they just had DSLRs, and there was no way to make the footage stable aside from buying like $1,000 Ronin, which I didn't have that money, but I did have $300 to buy a little handheld Steadicam to make the DSLR footage smooth. And then, you know, I just started to love the look of that and the freedom, and like I can just walk around and capture stuff. And yeah. And then I knew then that I wanted to be in camera, and that it was just camera that I wanted to be in. And then I ended up here.
Yeah. And it's great that you got into camera with an editing background, because there's a lot of camera ops that just don't really understand that world. And that's like, you have to know how the things cut together in order to like make, you can make a beautiful image, but it just won't sometimes line
like
up
if
to the
your
shot.
eye lines aren't right, or if you're you know, your sizing's wrong, or you know, if you're on the wrong side of the line, etc. Like that's all very important.
You mentioned earlier that after college was a very confusing time, because it's, you know, not really clear how life goes after that in the film career. What was that like? What was moving down here after college and trying to get your foot in the door?
That was weird. I would say I got pretty lucky. When I was in college, we U of O held a red workshop, And this is the first time that I've seen a red camera. You know, we just been with
Is this Kevin's workshop?
Yeah, I think so.
I was in that class, I think.
Shout out Kevin.
Yeah. So we were just used to like C100s and DSLRs. And this was the first time that I could see like a real cinema camera.
Yeah.
You know, red is real cinema camera, et cetera, et cetera. But in that class, coincidentally, there was a woman in the class who happened to be the daughter of the CEO of Panavisions.
Okay.
So
I remember this, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the woman came also to our school a couple times for talks and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was like winter or spring term of my final year in school. And I went to Mike Aronson, our dean at the time, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm about to graduate. Do you have any idea like what someone in my position should do? And he said, well, I'm glad you asked because I just had lunch with the CEO of Panavision and she's looking for interns from U of O. And then I finally put the two together that she, the CEO, and had her daughter in my class, basically, which was just pure coincidence. So Mike introduced me to Kim, who's Panavision CEO. Mm-hmm. And I had a phone call with her that only lasted like 15, 20 minutes. But she said, keep in touch with me. And when you graduate and move down, you know, just touch base with me, you know, semi-frequently, and we can, you know, we'll just be in touch. I didn't think this would lead to a job or anything, but it was kind of surreal to just have a CEO of a major company just be like, yeah, just talk to me anytime. So 6 months went by. I, you know, graduate in June. I don't really hear anything. We talk like once a month. I'm just giving her updates on what I do, and I was PAing on student shorts and
You just emailing her like a quick
just like
here,
a
there.
like 2-paragraph thing, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Hope you're well, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then at one point, this was like October or November, she emailed me back and said, hey, Panavisions has a position open for this thing called an RTR technician, which is a person that is in the back cleaning sticks and cases and organizing the little, you know, brackets and all the important tchotchkes.
Fancy name. RTR technician.
Yeah, well, RTR stands for ready to rent.
Oh, okay.
So you're just a guy who puts stuff in a box and
Technician. Okay.
Yeah, technician at $14 an hour. Oh, God. I mean, this is 2018, so
Yeah.
minimum wage wasn't there yet, but it was just above. So then I worked there. You know, I interviewed, I got the job, and I worked there from January 2nd, 2018 until I left, which was in July of 2021. So essentially like exactly 2 years ago is when I left Panavision.
Okay.
The whole time I was there, it was just a bunch of learning and working.
Yeah.
And eventually there were people on the prep floor, which is where they meet the clients and they prep the gear. Some of those people had moved to other positions or they left the company. So there was a big vacuum. And I applied to become a prep tech, and I essentially got it because there were so many people that left.
Yeah.
And then so from June 2018 to when I left in July 2021, I was a prep tech at Panavision, which is pretty cool.
Did you get any jobs through being a prep tech there and talking to the camera people that came through? They always told me that was the way to get into a camera department.
Yes.
You did get it?
Yes.
That
so
happened?
It was a lot slower than I thought it would. I thought I was only going to be at Panavision for 2 years. I was like, okay, it's going to be 2 years and I'm going to be out in the field. But it turns out life is a lot slower than what you wish or think it will be.
When the timeline of this, when was this around? Where did quarantine have anything to play?
It did. COVID did delay it a bit because Panavision furloughed us for like 10 months.
Yeah.
So there was, like we are now with the strike, it was a lot of just like, well, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like we'll just hope for the best. But yeah, working at Panavision, you get FaceTime with everyone who comes in, whether that's for like small commercials or music videos, non-union things, all the way to like big, movies.
Yeah.
So,
and for those that don't know, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the process of checking something out isn't just somebody showing up and being like, thanks. It's like a 12-hour day of people rigging stuff in the rental house, right?
yeah. So,
So you really get time to like get to know somebody.
yeah. So like, let's say a music video or a commercial. It's usually one camera. It's usually a set of prime lenses, maybe like 6 or 8 of, the whole range of focal lengths. You need a wireless video. You need wireless focus. You need the support, so the camera head, the tripod, tall sticks, baby sticks. You need the hi hat, low hat, cables, signal cables, batteries, brackets in case they rig to something that isn't very traditional. So you really get to know the ins and outs of like how a package works on set.
Yeah.
Even though you're not on set, but you're talking with them, you're listening in on their, if they're talking on the phone on speaker or something, like, oh, by the way, we're going to be at the beach, on an armed car. And okay, well, I need some sand and water protection. So you need, a Burke bag to go over the camera, or I need clear filters to protect the lens from, dust, etc. Yeah. It gets very complicated.
I was thinking earlier, the only thing worse than dropping a flute into sand is dropping a lens into sand.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Definitely need that.
Yeah. And there's myriad types of lenses, anamorphic, spherical, vintage, large format, medium format, 16 mil. Then there's film and digital, 16 mil film, 35 mil film.
Yeah.
And you get to working at this place. Do you ever get to kind of play around with those, or is it a lot of just touching them, making sure they're working comfortably?
Panavision likes to run their staff really thin, and so everyone is incredibly overworked. But when there is downtime, like right now or like the beginning of COVID, there were times where you could just play around with the gear because it wasn't getting rented. Yeah. And especially their DXL, which is their collaboration with Red to make a cinema camera. They made like hundreds of those things, but they like rarely went out. So there were just DXLs sitting on the shelf. At one point, another prep tech counted them, and there were like 40-something DXLs just sitting on the shelf, not getting rented. So it was like, and Panavision does this thing called the employee package program. Ooh. Where you can, if you're an employee, you can take gear out and they'll cover the insurance costs and it'll be free. There's certain stipulations, like you can't take anamorphic glass or stuff that's in high demand. Like when the Mini LF just came out, you couldn't take a Mini LF because they were paying jobs that wanted to book it. So it's stuff like that.
That's super nice.
Yeah. So a lot of when I started doing bigger Steadicam things, as I would, my coworkers would be like, oh, I'm shooting something. I'm taking a package out from, it's just going to be a red and some super speeds. Do you want to do Steadicam on it? And so that's how I'd kind of, learn my craft that way.
That's a really good setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim.
It seems like most of the time, the watching Steadicam operators on set, the like limitation of a shot is often directly connected to like somebody's fitness, or like that's like a real resource where like that isn't really the case in a lot of other areas in film. Is there like an established like exercise routine? Because it is kind of a very awkward position that you're holding that camera rig in and you're like using muscles you wouldn't normally use. Is that like a factor, or does it just look like that?
I think it just looks like that. I mean, it is heavy, but a lot of it is your hamstrings and your quads and your lower back, which I think humans use a majority of the time. They're the biggest muscle groups. So the vest is what helps you, and the way you tune the arm is how you basically stand up straight and you feel all the weight coming down on you and not pulling you to one side.
Yeah. Like a backpack.
Yeah.
Like that's what a backpack does.
Yeah. So the arm has adjustments where it can feel like you're displacing the weight centrally on you as opposed to holding the camera out
on the front. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
What have been some difficulties in the process of you trying to find your perfect setup? The weight is distribution issues or whatnot.
Yeah, it's luckily there's such a huge Steadicam community here in LA that and they're all very helpful and friendly, that you can just message someone and say, like, if you see that they have a vest that you want to know more about, or even Tiffin's here and they have a demo space at their shop.
Oh, cool.
You can just ask people like, hey, like, what is this setup? How do you like it? What does it do for you? Have you tried this other thing, et cetera, et cetera. The vest I have, I really like because it pivots on the hip and the sternum joints. So you don't have to walk in a rigid stance. You can kind of walk normally and let your hips rise and fall. It also has a lot of cross-sectional breeze area, I would say, because I tend to sweat a lot. So it's a lot of just empty space that allows air to like pass through freely. Because some vests can be so like on you and constricting that, it just bottles up all the heat. So
is there any projects that you'd love to kind of share, the things that you're doing or things that you're proud of that you've worked on?
I just last week I just did a 5-day short film where I was not just Steadicam, but I was also the camera operator. So I didn't just do Steadicam. I did, regular camera operating, both handheld and traditional on sticks or dolly. I find more enjoyment doing that whole like all-encompassing operating role as opposed to just Steadicam. Because you can really like get invested in the story, and you can get on a good term with your crew and the DP and the director and find out like what they like. And also you're just so in control of the frame, it's like more of a canvas, so to speak. Like how do I say it? Like,
I mean, being able to see, be part of the whole story.
It's all your work, essentially. The lighting's not your work. The lens choice is not necessarily your work in the acting, but like that frame is kind of cool to just be like, I did that.
Yeah. And you can do stuff like, this is what I'm imagining you're talking about. Like if you really want to contrast two scenes and there's more motion in one, in the Steadicam section, you can be like, oh, the other shots were much more steady, much more flowy. And then I can up the contrast here to bring out the craziness of this scene or the energy. Yeah. Well, as if you're just doing the Steadicam thing, you don't have any context of like what this is in the larger picture. You paint a bigger picture in your head if you do the whole thing, and if you're not just brought in for, hey, we just need you for half a day on this day. Steady hands, get in there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So is that the goal now for you, operator, or is it DP?
I have no interest in shooting. I do not care at all about lights.
Okay.
Which is what I've kind of found to be like what at least the people here, DPs tend to care more about lighting than they do camera movement and like the logistics, because I really like the logistics of where the camera is, what has to be in frame, etc. And I think the role of the operator is perfect for that kind of, logistical manager. I just want, the end goal is to be the camera Steadicam operator on narrative projects, like features and maybe TV. But
and what's the process for that? I know camera is a lot more kind of laid out. The ladder is a lot more laid out than in some other areas. What does that ladder look like? What steps do you have to take to get there?
Well, you can start at a rental house. So that's step one. There's no like set path for anything. It all depends on your circumstances as well, and who you know and who knows you. I would say like back in the day, like the traditional sense was like work at a rental house, get brought on as a loader because digital utility didn't exist back then. Work as a loader for a couple years, then bump up to second AC, and then do that for a couple years, then bump up to first AC, do that for a couple years, and then you can bump up to operator.
Yeah.
But nowadays it's just it looks like Tehran, Iran traffic. Like, everyone's just jumping into whatever role they want to do because essentially they can nowadays.
I thought the union prevented that, like you had to be in a certain, because I know when you join as, for example, a loader, that's a different classification that kind of supposed to hold you into a certain position. But I also know that there's like a lot of fluidity there, and enlighten us. I'm not
quite sure on the up versus down in the classification, but if you, like, let's say you join as a loader, you can work 40 days out of classification before you have to bump up. And if you bump down, so if you bump up to second AC, and then if you bump down back to loader, you have to work like 18 months or something at that lower level.
And that those bumps are money. That's what that means, right? You have to pay money to then get there.
Yeah. You just have to pay the difference on the initiation fee.
Okay.
Right now I'm a utility, which is the lowest tier. So I do that on union jobs, which is, wrangling cable, BNC signal, helping the crew out, sometimes stepping in as a second, so to speak, if they need extra hands to help, with lens swaps or, putting a different head on the dolly, etc. So that's the union role that I'm in. And then when I operate, I'm only operating in non-union scenarios because I haven't reached the classification to bump up.
Yeah.
And it's a whole thing, like you need 100 non-union hours that are payroll and not for web, so that whatever your project you're working on have to be leased out through a payroll company, and it can't be for like online stuff. So you need 100 of those days in a 3-year period.
Days, not hours.
Days.
Yeah.
To classify as an operator.
Yeah.
And that's for local 600. No, that's for contract services.
Okay.
So there's this thing called the IER, Industry Experience Roster. So that is essentially the producers, who are the ones paying everybody. They don't want inexperienced people on their projects. So they came up with this thing called the IER. This is only an LA West Coast thing. On the East Coast, they don't have an IER. That you can just join Local 600, pay the money if you have the hours. And
so many steps.
it's a they make it difficult out here, but apparently it's way easier than what it used to be, which I don't even want to know what that was like. I think nepotism was the big qualifying factor for getting
nepotism roster. So you're trying to get those days
actively
right now.
I believe I could because I'm in the union already as a utility, I believe I could just bump up, but that would be on the union side. So the union would say, okay, you're an operator, you're good to go. But the roster would say, you're not on there, so you can't work.
Wow. So you need both approval.
Yes.
In order to get that.
So
that's so crazy.
And then you're still not guaranteed a job.
Yeah, exactly.
All said and done.
Yeah.
You're still no more employed than you were before.
Exactly. And, a couple tens of $1,000s out.
Yeah.
To reclassify.
You're less employed
dues,
than you were before. Because it's also more competitive, right? Or is that incorrect?
I don't know if it's more competitive or not. I would say that there are a lot of people on the roster right now who are very hungry for work.
Yeah.
So now might not be a good time, but post-COVID, like 2021, when I jumped out of Panavision, the whole town was slammed. Like,
okay.
Yeah, everyone was busy.
Yeah.
Is there difficulties with breaking between union work and then non-union work?
Right now, no, because there is no union work. It's the whole places.
Yeah.
All the union stuff is shut down as a result of the strike.
Totally.
For better or for worse. But so right now, a lot of my work has just been non-union operating, which is eventually what I want to do anyway. So I feel like I'm honing a skill,
right,
that I want to hone, because I don't want to stay a utility.
Totally.
But the union healthcare is so good that I stay a utility because it's not. I don't really want to be a loader. That sounds way too stressful.
Longest hours on set.
Yeah, and you also don't really see the set. You're kind of like on the truck, loading and downloading, making phone calls and doing faxes and whatnot.
Yeah, when I PA'd, always the last guy with a margin was the guy. Everybody had left, the guy in the parking lot on a table outside of his car waiting for the footage to dump. Yeah. An hour, sometimes 2 hours after everybody had left. 16-hour days.
Yeah, because loaders also have to do time cards. They have to do run slips, etc.
First one in, first one out. And the operators, last one in, first one out. So
yeah, them and the DP.
Yeah.
And I could second. I have seconded. I have a couple days as a second. The only thing with seconding is that there's so much extra gear needed to do the job, proficiently. You need multiple carts. I mean, you don't need them, but to make your life easier and to make it work smooth for everyone else, you need multiple carts. You need all of these expendable type things. You need, markers, slates, marks, etc., sandbags, hard marks. It's just an investment that I don't want to divert money from.
Right, because you're going somewhere else, ultimately.
Yeah, so I stay a utility for the healthcare and because it gets me access to big sets where I can watch and observe the real, top dog operators and DPs and firsts and seconds, how they work, and I can absorb it all while also getting healthcare and being paid a fairly good wage. And then I can take all that I learn and use it on the non-union side and hopefully become a better operator that way.
Yeah. And then eventually be that full time.
Yeah, and then eventually get my 100 days, et cetera, classify as an operator, and then I'm in. Yeah. So haven't made it yet.
I mean, but you have in a lot of ways. Like you're in the process of doing it, and it's what we've found in a few interviews that we've had is like it's almost this cycle of like constantly making it, like having this goal of like, and then you reach that goal and you're in the cycle of like, okay, what's the next goal? And you just continue into this progress of hopefully making it to the dream thing.
I feel like the distance between goals once you hit that check mark grows. So, your beginning goals may be, I want to do this within a year. Yeah. And then, once you hit that, I want to do this within 2 years. And now it's like, now I want to do this by the end of my career. I want to achieve this. So time just gets longer.
Right. Well, I do kind of envy though I mean you've healthcare. The
Almost lost it.
Oh,
I literally almost lost my. I only needed 23 more hours by June 24th.
Oh, man.
And so my coverage was going to end because you're only covered for 6 months.
Yeah.
And you have to work 400 hours to qualify for the next 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And the last union job I did was mid-January. So.
And they're not doing anything because of the strike.
Well, they weren't, but now they are.
They are.
So
okay.
Because of that, I got the 23 hours. They just like bumped me up.
Oh, they did it automatically to like protect their members? Like you didn't have to work for it? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be brutal if they're like, okay, everybody's out.
Well, that's what we thought was going to happen. Everyone was like, what are we going to do?
That's on you, man. It didn't work.
Exactly. Yeah. We thought that was going to happen. But I just got an email a couple days ago. It said MPI, Motion Picture Insurance, is giving out like, a set number of hours if you work this many hours in a time period last year or something.
Mm-hmm.
So
awesome.
Luckily, I'm good, but I'm only good until February.
Gosh, and that's such this job of just like, okay, I got until this month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cut you off there. I don't know.
Sorry about that.
I was just saying, you've carved out a pretty difficult but clear path for yourself, which is something to hold on to. I feel like you know exactly what you want to be, and the steps, there seem to be some pretty clear steps of how to get there, which is difficult to do in the film industry because everything seems so all over the place. And how do I get to the next thing? What's the stepping stone for this? So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're in a good spot.
Yeah, I think so. It's just, again, like when you sit at home with no work,
Of course,
like,
yeah.
Damn it, I should be doing something. But that's why I've picked up baking. So
okay.
Yeah, baking and cooking. So I've been making breads and macarons and pastries and stuff to hone some other skill.
Doing something else, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the strike has brought many good things, at least in the kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, very delicious things.
Very delicious things.
But mentally, probably not the best. But.
How do you deal with that? Is there any kind of coping things
Besides
that you deal with?
I guess.
Baking,
Besides
I guess, is a type of meditation. But like, I mean, with this job, with
big stressor for me.
It's definitely smells interesting in the kitchen when Yannick bakes.
Yeah.
But with
thank you for that.
I can cut it. No? Yeah.
No. As you were. Go on.
Okay. With the process of like having these deadlines of like, okay, I got to make 400 hours by this month. What keeps you mentally sane in that progress of trying to make it happen?
Well, I mean, my partner's lovely, and she also works in the film industry. We both met at Panavision. She used to work she was a prep tech. She was one of the people that moved to a different department, created that vacuum on the prep floor. And so she trained me on the prep floor.
So another thank you, Kim.
Yes, there's more to talk about with that.
Okay. Sorry.
So, her name's Jackie. Jackie went to Special Optics to work with Dan Sasaki, and I went to the prep floor. And Jackie trained me to be a prep tech, and a lot of the jobs that I would prep for needed special optics lenses, because that's now the thing to have like custom tailor built lenses for every single, Hertz commercial.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
that's going to be playing on an iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. So I would end up like going back to Dan's area, just to check up on like what lenses I needed for my prep. And that's how we eventually became familiar with each other. Jackie now works at Keslow Camera, which is another rental house, but she's kind of done with the film industry. She started working at Panavision in like 2013, And then when we got furloughed, Panavision didn't bring her position back, which is absolutely ridiculous because Dan he's a genius, but he can only he's just him. Like, and she was there to coordinate, like, okay, we need to get this set of lenses for this show in New Zealand, and we need to get this set of lenses in Atlanta, et cetera, et cetera. So because of COVID and because Panavision wanted to cut costs or something, they didn't bring back her position. So she found work at Keslow. It's growing well for her there, but I think she's kind of fed up with the film industry in general, and so she's gonna do what she kind of always wanted to do, which is she's studying to get her master's in clinical psychology right now, so she can be like a child therapist.
Oh,
It's really cool.
So
noble.
it's quite helpful to have someone practicing therapy in this time that you're living with. Aside from baking, everyone else is out of work, so there's like some sense of community and like talking with other people that you've worked with. You know, today I was at a Steadicam practice with 5 other Steadicam operators. It's just a social environment. We just practice and get time in the rig to not lose the skill, and it's just a communal type thing. So
do you guys have those sports teams, like Steadicam operators? I know for shows they do that sometimes, or different unions where it's like, it was like when I was working on 911, the 911 people had like a volley softball team that they would go against like the American Horror Story guys, and there was like a whole league with like a bracket and everything. Does the union have something like that?
I mean, the union doesn't, but individual like crews will probably want to do that.
Yeah.
It all depends on the show and the makeup of the crew, and if they want to do that.
It'd be fun if there would be like different unions against each other, and like I don't know, like
728 versus 600 and local 80 out here like
I
kicking
feel like it would
everyone's
be
ass.
kind of like like kind of predictable, like which ones would, like I feel like SAG would do well because it's like all the stunt guys or something like that, like all the. But I feel like that, I don't know, you guys are pretty fit, so I feel like you guys would do pretty well.
I feel like you can almost see the strike happening without even going on strike, just because of how many people you can see in LA anywhere. There's just like there's so
like
many
on the street,
on the street, walking around, go in parks. Like there's not a place where I can like be alone now because everyone's
unemployed,
aimlessly unemployed, trying to figure out what to do. But the unemployedness is in the air.
That's sweet,
but
sweet
I mean,
smell.
it's not just our industry too. Like the shipping industry, like isn't UPS like on strike or something?
I didn't know that.
I think the economy is in the tank too. The bank, Silicon Valley Bank, collapsed a couple months ago. It's like great things are happening.
Apparently, we all almost died. There was a meteor apparently that was hidden by the sun. That was like 200. I think it was like 200 meters, feet, whatever. Huge meteor that missed the Earth by like between the distance of the moon and the Earth. And nobody realized it until 2 days later. So like we almost all died. Extinction event meteor.
Wow.
Without anybody even noticing.
Well,
I mean, without us noticing, that's kind of the way to go, right? Don't have to pay rent.
Right. Yeah. Like
the meteor should have made a TikTok so I could be more informed.
You would have known. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, crazy things. Literally in the air.
Yeah, in the air. It would have caused a lot of unemployment, that meteor.
Yeah.
It would have.
I don't think employment would have been a concept anymore.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to know more, like talking about the future of where you're wanting to go. You kind of touched on it, but is there somewhere like 10 years from now you kind of visualize yourself being where you want to be?
Both Jackie and I would love to move to Portland.
Oh, cool.
she would have a fine time finding work there as
This
a
is
therapist.
Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, Portland, Oregon.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Very depressed up there. Lots of
Yeah.
therapists needed.
Yeah.
It's become sunnier. It's sunnier
It had.
and
We
sunnier.
just went there for 4th of July
global
weekend.
warming.
Well,
It
I
was
didn't wanna
actually
say it.
hotter there than it was here.
Yeah.
But we'd love to move up there. I don't think there's that much work in my field.
Yeah.
I
There's
will
some-
tell you,
like 3 or 4
there is
shows.
not much.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is a lot, and I can link you up with a good production company there, but it's not here.
Yeah.
Nothing like here.
Although I know that like Matt Moriarty is up there,
I've heard of this
Oregon-based Steadicam operator.
Oh, okay.
name. But yeah, I mean, there is work, and you can definitely find it. It's just, I mean, just being in LA.
Yeah, it's not the volume.
It's the hub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the end career goal would be to live in Portland, but to get work
Totally.
down here. Because when I was at Panavision, there were some ACs that I knew that like they live in Montana, but they always get flown down and to prep at Panavision for movie shooting here.
Yeah.
And it's just because they're so good at their craft and like they're so well established that it doesn't really matter where they live.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they'll
that's
just
the
ship you
goal.
over.
I've thought about that too.
Yeah, like to not be in LA where it's crowded and hot and pretentious, and just be in a nice town and
Yeah.
be able to relax when you have time to relax.
I feel
You
like
know, cost of living too. So
yeah. I don't want to leave LA until I'm at that point. I feel like 'cause
Yeah.
I feel like this is the fastest way to get to that point,
yeah, unfortunately.
unfortunately. And then once you get there.
I definitely feel that. Like Yannick and I, we have an art department friend who lives in somewhere in New Mexico, and she does small gigs in New Mexico, but like majority is like reality TV all around the world while she works on an Airbnb that she's creating from scratch. And it's like, it's a dream job, like essentially
Yeah.
for her. She gets to just build this house and go travel too and work. So like that would be, I don't know where I'd land. I don't know if it would be Portland, but
Good icebreaker question for next time.
next time. Yeah. But, yeah, it's a good thing to kind of keep your mindset on.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the end goal. You know, obviously have a house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not rent, have property.
So you'd have one in LA and then one in.
I
Or-
think our main house would be in Oregon, and then I'd have like an apartment here or
Yeah.
something, just a place to stay, you know, when work is happening. And then, yeah, another goal is just be a dependable camera operator, which has its own, you know, there's the different diplomatics between A camera, B camera, C camera, etc.
What are those?
A camera is like the point man or point person, I should say. So they're essentially running the set, getting the logistics figured out, etc. Like, oh, we want to do a crane shot. Okay, where does the base of the crane need to be? Like, you know, you gotta retract the crane, and then I'll pan and tilt, etc. You know, lights need to be out of frame, so we gotta tell the electric department like this is what the frame is, and you gotta tell the grips like, you know, especially the dolly grip, how you want the crane to move, etc. So you're really in charge of like facilitating getting the shot. B camera traditionally is on a longer lens, a bit further away. They're just kind of like picking off stuff. And then C camera is, when I was prepping at Panavision, someone told me, you know what C camera stands for? I was like, what? And they were like, see if you can do it. And so that's really just, well, let's just throw C camera, see what we can get type thing. So
Bonus shots,
yeah.
angles.
Yeah. But to be A camera, you have to be like, you're fully in it all the time,
Yeah.
which sounds fun.
Yeah.
It's exhausting, but it's fun, and you feel like you're really like, you know, making the train go forward.
Yeah.
So,
And you're engaging with the community.
yeah, and you got to talk with the actors too. Like, hey, if you like do a pause here before you do your turn, then we can see more of your face, et cetera, et cetera. So,
And you're putting your personal touch into the project.
Yeah.
You have some ownership in
Yes.
the product.
yeah.
More than the other operators by quite a bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's all funneled through the DP
Yeah.
and up to the director.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you'll get credit for it. I
Yeah.
wouldn't go that far.
Yeah. But you will have a large helping hand
Yeah.
in making that shot or that scene happen. So
Yeah.
that's kind of invigorating to do.
Yeah.
Talking about that, visualizing yourself in 10 years, we like to do a little message to yourself, and we'll be sending this in 10 years time to you.
Oh God.
So something that you can tell yourself in 10 years, this is you talking to yourself now, and whatever you want to say.
That's a lot of pressure. What do I say? Just don't fuck up, or like
if that's
keep going, or
if that's what you want. Some guy said that he has to change his Brita filter.
Oh, yeah, reminder to.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
But it's whatever kind of comes to mind of like, this is kind of your moment to talk to you, and it's whatever you want it to be.
I guess just whatever you're doing, just give it your best shot and keep going. And if it's difficult, if you don't see it panning out or being fruitful to you, then it might be time to change. But I think if you don't give up and you consistently do what you want and what you love to do and what you think brings you joy, then you should be fine.
Yeah. Well,
But then if the economy goes down and we're all drafted into a war and yada, yada, yada.
well, now we have to worry about meteorites.
Yeah, or
Well,
about
we cleared
meteor
that one.
hits.
Cleared that one.
Cleared
I thought you were setting up a pun with things panning out.
Yeah. I mean,
But you weren't.
I thought about it while I was saying
You
it,
were?
but I was like,
I don't want to interrupt the flow.
I'm gonna fuck this up if I make
Yeah,
a joke out of it.
Yeah.
Your 10 year from now self is like, damn it, I freaking said a pun.
Yeah. What was I thinking?
But yeah, thank you so much for being on. It's interesting getting that like kind of union aspect of the progress of that whole, what everything you need to accomplish in each kind of section. And it sounds like a lot, but it sounds like you're passionate in what you do, and you want to kind of, you're ready for the next steps and the next stages, and it's good to have that passion.
Yeah, I think I'm. I when I utility, I watch all these guys and gals who are already in the positions that I want to be in, and I'm sometimes I'm like, wait, I can do that job. That looks totally doable.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I'm even like, they're in that position. Like, did you see the shot they just did? That was horrendous.
And
like,
it
I could
happens
do
more
better than
and
that.
more.
Yeah. So
The more you're on set, the
Yeah.
more that happens. Yeah.
yeah. So I think it's doable. It's just a matter of when and what other kind of setbacks, be it strikes or pandemics, kind of add to the amount of hurdles in the way. But I think if I keep going, I should be able to get there
Yeah.
and hopefully make enough money to pay for things with inflation.
Oh, I believe.
So
I believe.
And hey, also always great to be able to talk to another UO person. I mean,
Yes,
you're
go
1 year
Ducks.
ahead of me.
Yes,
Go
go
Ducks.
Ducks.
Seeing what all the Ducks are up to.
Yeah.
We're trying to collect them all.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good because I knew that some of you guys were here. Like
A lot of
wasn't
us.
Danielle and Jacinta, and all, they're here.
Yeah, between our 2 years, we got I think 10, 15 people that are all actively in the film industry.
Wow.
I mean-
Actually, one time when I was prepping, there was a guy, I don't know his name, but I recognized him from our class,
Oh,
or one of the classes we were in.
Okay.
And he was utilitying just like I, and it was like, and we just saw each other and we were like, wait, I know you from somewhere. I was like, oh, we both went to U of O in cinema studies.
I've met a couple docs out there by random too.
Really?
In 205.
Yeah.
I actually ran into a whole group doing our reunion. All these other doc people came by to the restaurant, to like the Cinema Studies reunion restaurant,
right.
and they didn't even realize it was that the reunion was going on. They're like, "Why are you guys all here?" I'm like, "Why are you here?"
Wow.
It's like, yeah, so yeah, they're around. Plus, we do have some pretty big alumni. I mean, James Ivory, obviously.
Yeah.
Also, I think there's another CEO of somebody at Warner Bros. I think we got somebody pretty far up. I mean, the Ducks are around.
Sko Ducks, baby.
Sko Ducks.
Good eggs.
Yeah. So I mean, I have a rain jacket or a hard shell coat that I wear sometimes when it gets cold, and it's got the Oregon Duck, and it's got the rowing logo on it.
nice.
So sometimes people see me and they're like, "Sko Ducks," or like,
Yeah.
or like I saw a background guy with a duck hat, and I was like, "Did you go to Oregon?" He was like, "Yeah." So
Yeah.
that was fun.
I once did extra work, and it was nondescript what the college student that I was playing was supposed to be from, but it was like Birkenstocks, sweatpants,
Eugene.
Patagonia vest, like green, dark sweater
Dirty
underneath.
Huge, yeah.
Dirty huge. I was like, I know what we're playing here, and it was for I forgot what it was called. It has, I don't know any names, but it was supposed to be Eugene. They just didn't want to say it for legal reasons, but it was literally supposed to be. I was playing a college student like a year after coming from that school, which just felt kind of full
Crazy that,
circle.
like people actually dress that way, and it's like a stereotype, but
that's
that's
real.
like how they actually.
There's a dirty huge uniform.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in college, it was sweatpants and like
Yeah.
Crocs and stuff.
Oh,
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or Burks. Yeah.
Some things never change.
Boat
Just
shoes.
keep going.
Yeah.
I'm an offender. I wore some of those things. Still do. Well, anyway.